Well, to discuss this, I'm joined now from Tunis by the Tunisian Secretary of State for Sport, Ahmed Gaaloul. He's also an advisor to the former Prime Minister. Also in Tunis, we have the President of the Center for the Study of Islam and Democracy, Radwan Masmoudi. And joining us from Ghent, Belgium, is author, journalist and political analyst Khaled Diab. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Ahmed Gaaloul, let me start with you. Do you respect the right of many Tunisians right now, 8 years on since the revolution, to ask, was it worth it?
Well, the question is really a good question, whether it is worth it, because this big change, we have to keep questioning it. And I would say that it is really worth it. It's worth it because the revolution is an expression, is a free expression of the Tunisian population. It was a free expression of the Tunisian population without the interference of the elite or anyone who would come and claim it for itself. So after decades of oppression, the Tunisian population, the free people of Tunisia, they rose up and they took to the streets and got their freedom. So it is really worth it.
Okay, so let's ask, what does freedom mean then? Because if people see that the economy is in a mess, that government ministers are corrupt, that somebody might be a university graduate and they still can't find a job, what difference does it make if you name it Bin Ali's Tunisia or democratic Tunisia? The situation for millions of especially young people is still the same. So again, I go back to the beginning. Has enough changed in order to justify that the country has had a successful revolution?
Well, I mean, these problems, which you are right in mentioning them, they did not start with a revolution. Basically, the revolution came up because of the existence of those problems, either corruption, economic crisis, social degradation, and all these issues, which we are still confronting and which we are still striving to go over them. Taking an oppressive regime out is not the end of the story. It is basically the starting point towards the road of freedom and dignity. We've just passed 8 years since the revolution. Since now the Tunisian population, the Tunisian people, are free to decide and able to bring change about. This is the big change.
Okay.
The big change is now we can say that we can decide what will be our future, which we were not able to do before.
Okay, and there were multiple votes since the revolution. Khaled Diab, has the country been able to build democratic institutions over the past 8 years?
Well, considering it's only been 8 years, I think what Tunisia has managed to build has been remarkable. I mean, revolutions can usually take generations to deliver results. Tunisia has managed to, first kind of in the contemporary Arab world, or among the first, of peaceful transitions of power without coups, without revolutions, without violence. It's like considering the amount of change that has occurred in Tunisia, it's happened peacefully. There's been, pluralistic transition which has been built on compromise and on consensus building. And now Tunisia is the proud owner of a functioning democracy, although there is a certain amount of dysfunction, obviously, in the government apparatus. But considering where Tunisia was and where it is today, I think it's rather remarkable what they've achieved, especially in terms of rights, human rights, women's rights, minority rights.
Okay, and we'll build on that in a moment or two. Radwan Masmoudi, as a lot of people say, follow the traffic. UNHCR and IOM have numbers that show that over the past year, the numbers have dramatically spiked of Tunisians who are getting on those boats, heading across the Mediterranean towards Lampedusa and elsewhere, willing to risk it all. So it was averaging about 2,000 people per year a few years ago. Now it's up to about 5,000. Who's to blame for that? Why are young people leaving?
I would say that Tunisia has succeeded on the political front, has achieved a lot politically in terms of building a real stable and genuine democracy. But on the economic front, I don't think we have succeeded in really improving the conditions on the ground, in attracting investments, in creating new jobs and opportunities for young people. I don't think the economy today is worse than it was before the revolution. I think it's about the same, but it is well below the expectations of the people, especially the younger generation, who participated in the revolution and who have huge expectations and who thought that the revolution will bring them prosperity, will bring them jobs, will bring them economic well-being. And that has not happened yet. And I think that the government now needs to focus on the question of the economy. I think in the first 4 years, from 2011 until 2014, the focus was on the political transition and the constitution and the elections. From 2015 until 2018, the main focus has been on defeating extremism, which was a real and serious threat in 2015 and 16. And I think we have achieved a huge progress on that front as well. But now I think the focus has to be on how do we create new jobs and new economic growth and opportunities.
And Ahmed Gaaloul, who should the government listen to? The IMF, which is saying tighten the belts and embark on austerity, or the people on the streets and the trade unions who are saying more jobs, more growth, more investment, and increase the wages? What sort of plan should the government follow?
Well, we are first concerned to listen to the people, really, because the government represents the will of the people. We are not there to represent other wills. However, we cannot work towards the stability and the progress and prosperity of the economy and social stability in Tunisia without listening to the stakeholders, corporations or governments or the regional situation, which is either supporting or resisting the progress in Tunisia. But the government is meant, and we are meant to listen to the people, and we are meant to strive so that we can bring what they put us for in the government. So we are here to work for the people, to express their will, and to give them hope that change is actually happening. And even though it is slow, but we are progressing forward. That is why the main criteria, the main slogan of this government is stability. We need stability to be able to progress. We need stability to be able to build. We need stability to be able to create national prosperity.
Radwan Masmoudi, what does it mean symbolically that 8 years after Mohamed Bouazizi self-immolated, we have someone like Abdurrazak Zorgi doing the same for the same reasons? Is that an embarrassment to the entire leadership?
I think it is a disappointment to the entire leadership that on the economic front we have not answered the needs of the people and the younger generation. I think that we also, as Mr. Ahmed Gaaloul has mentioned, we have to listen to the people, but also we have to be open and frank with the people, and we have to explain to them the real problems, the real challenges, and we have to create a national dialogue on the economy. I think this is what has been missing in Tunisia since the revolution. There is no clear vision. There is no clear program for how do we create jobs, how do we turn the economy around and create jobs and opportunities for younger generation. Just keeping or answering the strikes, and we have a lot of strikes, demanding wage increases is not the answer. If we just keep increasing wages, we will have inflation and the prices will rise, but the standard of living will not improve, and the standard of living might actually deteriorate. So we have to have a real wide spread and very popular national dialogue with the people. to explain and to understand what is economic growth. How do we create economic growth? Certainly, wage increases are not the answer. We have to create a new environment. We have to create an environment that encourages entrepreneurship, that encourages innovation, competitive businesses to prosper and grow in Tunisia. So there is a mindset, I think, that has to change among the population as a whole.
And Khaled Diab, talking about the mindset, and I know you said that this was remarkable over the past 8 years, what Tunisia has managed to achieve, but are we looking at it as being remarkable only because compared to the other countries that experienced the same convulsions of revolutions, Tunisia did okay relative to Libya and Syria? Is that a healthy way of thinking that, okay, well, it's not Syria, it's not Libya, so it must be doing okay?
I'm not talking about just relative to its neighbors. You know, it's in absolute terms, politically, Tunisia has made remarkable progress. France took several republics and decades of convulsion and violence and wars before it became, you know, a fully fledged democracy. There's regression in democratic stakes in numerous countries in Europe, in America, even in Turkey. You know, the democracy is under threat everywhere. So it's remarkable that at a time when democracy is on a back foot across the world, Tunisia is progressing democratically. The economy is a different question, and if you would like me to make my remarks on that, I can. Yeah. So the economy, I agree that there are certain domestic issues that have, you know, scuppered growth in Tunisia and its ability to develop through decades of corruption and mismanagement and so on. But I disagree on the point about wage increases. I think Tunisia needs to, it has a minimum wage, but it's not a livable minimum wage. I think there needs to be a realistic, livable minimum income for every Tunisian in order to deliver on this, the promises of the revolution and human dignity and economic justice. Tunisia, one of the problems it's faced is not that the revolution has not that the change of revolution has destroyed the economy, but that the revolution has not changed the economic infrastructure sufficiently. You know, there's still huge inequality within Tunisian society, and this needs to be addressed through fair taxation, through actual taxation, because, you know, like in many other countries in the region, Tunisia does not collect enough tax, you know, so it needs to tax better and more effectively and more efficiently, and not just through sort of sales taxes and so on, but also through taxes on wealth, on income and so on, to put in place a more effective tax system. And on top of that, you know, all the Tunisia's economic woes aren't all self-inflicted. You know, Tunisia is a small country with a small economy, which is, you know, at the mercy of greater forces globally and regionally. The problems next door in Libya have had a knock-on effect in Tunisia. The turmoil across the region has had a knock-on effect. The global turmoil has had a knock-on effect on Tunisia, and also the poor distribution of wealth globally. You know, when you have a corporation whose revenue, individual corporations whose revenue is far greater than Tunisia's, you know, you get an idea of the scale of the problem.
Right. Radwan, what do you think? You think Khaled should be hired as an economic advisor for Tunisia? He's saying tax the rich and improve and increase the minimum wage.
Well, I think that Tunisia has plenty of economic experts and professors and people who work in various economic fields. And they basically all agree on the kind of reforms that need to take place. The problem is, how do we explain these reforms to the citizen, to the common citizen? How can we engage in a dialogue with the citizens, not with the experts? Because I think if you bring all the economic experts in Tunisia or in the world, it's very clear what Tunisia has to do. It has to improve its fight against corruption. It has to fight against tax evasion. It has to tax the rich and help the poor more, and maybe raise the minimum income. or minimum salary on people. So there are reforms that we all know, but we have not explained these reforms. And some of these reforms are frankly painful to the people, or especially to certain classes of people who are benefiting from the current regime. And so we have to engage. I think what really is missing is a national dialogue with the common citizens, not just with the experts, to explain what the reforms are and why they are needed and what kind of impact they will have on the economy. We have not had this dialogue yet, I think.
Okay, well, it's hard to believe that it's been more than 8 years since the revolution. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure talking to you here on the Newsmakers. Ahmed Gaaloul, Radwan Masmoudi and Khaled Diab. Thanks again.